All right, folks, how you doing? Welcome back. So I'm beginning a new series, The Mars Mystery, based upon the book of the same name by Graham Hancock. There will be links in the description below where you can acquire the book, similar to when I did when Scotland was Jewish. The idea being to promote the book, not to replace it. So, disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. So we start with The Murdered Planet, Parallel World. Again, this is just kind of a summarized version of the actual book itself. So according to Hancock, Mars and Earth have a mysterious communion. We've sent spacecraft to Mars to investigate the red planet, and Martian rocks have crashed into Earth every so often. By 1997, a dozen meteorites have been identified. 3 of these are the SNC meteorites, Shergoti, Nakla, and Chassingi. Researchers are always looking out for more. Dr. Colin Pillinger of the UK Planetary Sciences Research Institute calculates that 100 tons of Martian rocks arrive on Earth annually. A Martian meteorite found in Antarctica in 1984 was investigated by NASA scientists in 1996, who were able to identify microscopic fossils of bacteria that might have lived on Mars over 3 billion years ago. In the same year, scientists at Britain's Open University found a second Martian meteorite containing chemical signatures, indicating that organisms could have existed on Mars 600,000 years ago. Life seed. So, in 1996, the Pathfinder Land Rover and Mars Global Surveyor Orbiter were launched. At the time of writing, 1997, the book talks about further missions being planned for 2005 with the goal in mind of collecting Martian soil rock samples. Russia and Japan are mentioned as also sending probes off to Mars for scientific tests and experiments. And there were, still presumably are, plans to possibly terraform Mars through the use of greenhouse gases and bacteria from Earth. It'll be interesting to see if that ever happens. Greenhouse gases could warm the planet up, and bacteria would transform Mars' atmosphere, gradually making it habitable again. Hancock wonders how likely it is that humanity could seed Mars with new life, and points out that the means already exist to fulfill this task. It is only a question of finding the will, the money, and the resources. Hancock points out that the origins of life on this planet, as on Earth, is an unsolved mystery which science has yet to properly address. Hancock points out that life on Earth seems to have just happened quite randomly, which I don't believe for one second, and that the planet is around 4.5 billion years old. The oldest surviving rocks are about 4 billion years old. The oldest traces of microscopic organisms are almost 3.9 billion years old. And the origins of life are a miracle which science cannot replicate, let alone explain or understand. Some options. So, Professor Fred Hoyle of Cambridge University speculates that the formation of life on Earth relatively quickly after it came into being can be explained by interstellar comets. Interesting when you compare this with what Thomas Beaumont was saying in his early books, The Mysterious Comet and the Riddle of the Earth. He's saying pretty much this, if I understood him correctly. Fragments of these comets hit the planet, releasing spores that previously had been suspended by cometary ice. When the comets hit, these spores took root, leading to life as we know it today. Alternatively, there is also the theory that the Earth was deliberately terraformed. A terraform theory hinges on the possibility of advanced civilization or civilizations that spread all across the universe. The main scientific consensus is that life on Earth arose spontaneously and accidentally without outside help. No, I don't believe that for one second. Well, personally, Hancock states that there are hundreds of millions of Earth-like planets randomly spread all over the universe, and how improbable it is that life evolved only on this planet. Well, that's the mindset of this immature arrogant toddler race called humanity, which is equally ignorant and arrogant in worrying measure. Why not Mars? Hancock points out that the first planet from the Sun, Mercury, is barren and devoid of life, as is the highly poisonous planet Venus, which is constantly consumed by sulfuric acids. Earth is the third planet out, and the fourth planet, Mars, is the most Earth-like in our solar system. Mars's axis is angled at 24.935 degrees, whereas Earth's axis is 23.5 degrees, so they're very similar. Mars's rotation is 24 hours 39 minutes, whereas Earth's rotation is 23 hours 56 minutes. Mars and Earth are both subject to cyclical axial wobbles called precessions. Neither planet is precisely spherical, and both are flattened at the poles. Interesting, isn't it, when you think about the hollow Earth? Mars has four seasons like Earth: ice polar caps, mountains, deserts, and storms. Mars today is a frozen waste, but in the ancient past, Hancock points out, it was a living world with oceans, rivers, a climate, and an atmosphere not unlike Earth today. Hancock states that it is highly probable that life existed on Mars once. Whether that life was seeded on the planet or evolved spontaneously, and hopes we may find traces of life on Mars. I personally don't believe in the whole evolution theory that species just evolve on planets randomly. I do believe in evolution in the sense that species change over time, they adapt to their environment. I do believe in it to that extent. But I tend to go with the idea that life was seeded on planets rather than just spontaneously, just one day happened. That seems a bit too spurious to my way of thinking. Hancock states that we are probably not alone in the universe. Well, definitely not. But if we are, then conditions for creating life on this planet are very focused, random, and unique, and could not be replicated in our solar system. The Mars question should be regarded as a, quote, great philosophical mystery, as he puts it. And with advances in exploration, this question can soon be solved. Well, to my mind, the greatest argument for intelligent life in the universe is the fact that they completely ignore us, for the most part. Hints of life. So Hancock states that evidence of life on Mars takes four principal forms. Quote, observations from Earth-based telescopes, 2, photographs and observations from orbiting spacecraft, 3, chemical radiological tests carried out on soil samples from Mars by NASA landers transmitted back to Earth for further analysis, 4, microscopic examination of meteorites from Mars carried out in the 19th and 20th centuries. Telescopic examination of Mars created a, quote, life on Mars sensation based on the claims of a large irrigation network of canals distributing water from the poles of Mars to the planet's equator. I've got a book about that, The Canals of Mars, which we'll get into in the future. The Martian canal theory was pushed by US astronomer Percival Lowell, whose ideas were ridiculed by mainstream scientists. What a surprise. In the 1970s, NASA's Mariner 9 and Viking probes orbited the planet, sending back photographs that showed there are no canals at present. Well, I would say more like the canals are just below the surface. Uh, According to Hancock, Lowell and others were misled by poor telescopic images and/or optical illusions. I don't really buy that. No Earth-based telescope has good enough resolution to solve the mystery of Martian life. I think the canals do exist, but they're just not on the surface or kind of below the surface. How deep below, I'm not sure, but that's just speculation on my part. Hancock focuses on the three other types of evidence: Martian meteorites, orbiter, and lander observations. He points out that two Martian meteorites appeared to have contained traces of primitive microorganisms, although many scientists disagree. Some tests were conducted in 1976 by the Viking lander proving positive for life. NASA stated that the planet is barren because no organic molecules were found at the landing sites on the surface. There's also the theory, though this one's a bit too tinfoil hat for even me, that no images of Mars have ever actually been witnessed by the public. That when you get images like what you see there on the right, that is really just a picture of a desert on Earth that's been photoshopped, and they just put a filter over it. And they just put like a red haze to make it look like it's on Mars, but really it's somewhere off in some blah 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 desert in the middle of fuck knows where. Nah, I don't really believe that. That's going a bit far. But I like Hancock's method. That's why I'm starting with the Mars mystery. I mean, some of the other sources I've got that I'm going to get into in the future go way further than Hancock does. They're really very, very close to tinfoil hat territory. But, I wanted to start off with the rational source because Hancock is methodical, very rational, very logical in his approach. And it's easy to get behind his methodology because it's methodical, and he does an excellent job. And I can tell from what I've read so far in this book and from listening to America before that Hancock is definitely somebody who should be taken seriously as, you know, well, I hate to say it academic. I don't want to say academic, but as a researcher, to call him a pseudoscientist, to my mind, is deeply insulting. I mean, I think he's really, really onto it in many ways. The thing is also he's very rational, which means he's not going to go too far away from the middle ground. If I'm explaining that right, he's not going to go too tinfoil hat. He's methodical. He started off as a journalist, but he's not gonna be too radical in what he's suggesting. If you listen to his interviews with like Joe Rogan and all the rest of it, and other folk have interviewed him, he's a man who very firmly has his feet on the ground. So if you're looking for Alex Jones, David Icke territory, look elsewhere because you're not going to find it with Graham Hancock, not to the same extent as those two. Though it is also worth pointing out that Alex Jones and David Icke are both narcissists. I would very much doubt that Graham Hancock is. I suppose it's possible, but I don't think so. I think it doesn't give any narcissistic indicators to me, at least, and I've studied HG tutor, but he is good at picking up on, but not identifying, notably, narcissists within fields like archaeology. And that's very evident. His frustration is so evident when you listen to America before. He's obviously ran into narcissists, uh, particularly cerebral cadre narcissists, and feels like academia, science, and particularly archaeology, and butted heads with them and challenged them. And when you listen to the interactions that Hancock has had with these figures, it's obvious what he's dealing with. You feel like, you know, somehow getting his number or his email and saying, "Dear Graham Hancock, check out HG Tutor. You're dealing with narcissists because academia, science, archaeology, all this, every field of human learning, is going to be infiltrated by narcissists. And remember, it's 1 in 6. That's more than 15% of the population. That's what, 16, 17%. I'm terrible at maths. But hope you've enjoyed this first video, and I'm just rambling on. So I'm just going to, leave it there, I think. But as always, leave your thoughts and comments below. And this presentation originally was about twice as long. It's about 31 slides, but I decided to reduce it because less is more sometimes, and to get the point across, in small doses works best. Anyway, thank you very much for watching and listening, and I'll see you the next time.